This morning, let's look at the unusual kingdom of God by looking at this unusual community. This unusual community that we see him introduce here at the beginning of this passage in Luke 6, verse 12. He introduces this unique, this unusual community here. God works through communities, right? That's the first idea that we have to understand, is that God moves through communities. He has done so from the beginning of this creation. He works through communities, and here he introduces this community. He goes up, prays all night long, comes back out, and calls people to himself. Calls his disciples to himself, and from them he names 12 apostles. 12 apostles, 12 men who would go on and carry his message, carry the gospel, and would begin his church. Does that number 12 mean anything to you? Does that seem familiar? It should. It was a very specific choice, a very specific number. With it, Jesus was bringing to mind how God ordered the community of Israel. There were 12 tribes, and now he talks about 12 apostles. These 12 men would lay the foundation of the church. He's making the point that God has always worked through communities. Not just men, not just women, not individuals, but communities. Yes, God does care about individuals. Don't get me wrong. He does use individuals, but he builds his kingdom through communities, through bodies, through people. In the Old Testament, we see the family is the main way that God worked and he moved in his people. The main way he formed his people, the main way he drove his nation, his kingdom was through the families. And then in the New Testament, we see that as with these 12 men, they would go on in the book of Acts and they would begin to create the church, us. God moves through communities. This is why it's so important that we are part of a local church. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, well, I don't have to go to church to worship. I can worship at home. Absolutely you can. I can read my Bible at home for myself. Absolutely you can, and you should. But there is something that happens here that you cannot reproduce outside of here. That is just truth. There's something that happens here that you cannot reproduce outside of here. Something happens when the body of Christ is gathered together that does not happen when we are on our own. But I want to drill down a little bit further into this group, this community here, and I want to show you something that's a little bit more unusual than that, because that's not unusual that we would be in community, right? We're made for community. We know that. If this is not your first time in church, you've heard it from the pulpit before. You're made for community. That's not unusual, but what is unusual was the people that he put together. There are two people in particular in these 12 men that were listed that I really want to bring out. I'm not even going to touch the third one, the most obvious one, the traitor. But there are two that I want to pull out and just kind of look at and show you why it's unusual how Jesus put these together in this community. The first one is a man named Matthew. Matthew, as some of you may know, was a tax collector. As a tax collector, he worked for the Roman government, and he would more than likely cheat the people, his own people. He was a Jewish man working for the Roman government and would have more than likely cheated his own people to be able to pay their taxes and then also keep some for himself. They were hated. They were despised by all Jewish people, and he is part of what now Jesus says, no, you're one of the ones that I say is going to be core to beginning this new kingdom of mine. That's shocking, right? But not only him, there's another guy in this group that is shocking. There's a guy named Simon, who's also called the Zealot. Now the Zealots, this isn't just that he was passionate, but the Zealots were a political group who were known for their violent rebellion against the Roman government, their violent let me pause. Their violent disdain and pulling away from the Roman government. They hated that. Jesus said, okay, now this guy who hates the Roman government, I want you to be really close with this guy who works for the Roman government. I want you to work together. I want you to be in community together. I want you to go through this together, arm in arm, and begin this new kingdom that he is here to introduce. These two people who were at odds politically and ideologically, they were now brought together to work for the kingdom of God in this new community. That's shocking. It's unusual. So why would he put them together in this community? Because he understood that not only do we need community, but we need people who are different than us. We need people who think differently than us, who act differently than us, who look differently than us, who talk differently than us. We need people who are different than us. The kingdom of God consists of people who are wired with different personalities and are given different gifts by God for mutual edification. We are brought in all bringing our own unique wiring and set of gifting and skills and talents, all to be used for the body so that we can help each other. We need people who are different than us. Paul talks about this a lot. Paul, specifically in 1 Corinthians 12, he introduces this idea of the church being like a body, and we need all of the different parts of the body. He goes on and says that if all were eyes, how could you hear? If we're all the same, how could we move forward the way we're supposed to move forward? If we all think the same and talk the same and live the same and we all have the same beliefs and the same giftings and the same skills and the same wiring, how could we accomplish what we need to accomplish? We need people different than us. The church is often too homogeneous. I mean, look around. We pretty much all look the same. Talk the same, think the same, vote the same. We are all very similar. Martin Luther King Jr. said that 11 o'clock on Sunday morning is the most segregated hour in America. And I get it. It's difficult to embrace people who are different. It's difficult to be in a close, intimate relationship with people who are at opposite ends of certain spectrums from you, specifically in our country, politically. They are not just different than us, they are evil. And you believe that no matter what side you stand on. We have to learn to embrace those who think differently than us, who look differently than us. We have to be able to embrace them and love them and welcome them in and go arm in arm together for the gospel. I don't just simply mean racially different. I think that is important, but that's not what I mean solely. I mean politically and ideologically, and I believe that we have to be able to bring in people who don't have everything just so as we would want, people who are struggling with sins that maybe we would not understand or not agree with or have a problem with, but we need to be able to welcome them in and love them anyways and know that God loves them. Yes, we can speak against sin, but we can still love people and not try to cast them out because they struggle with something that we don't understand. If that was the case, all of us should be cast out. We have to be able to bring people in that we disagree with, that we don't understand, people who are different than us. But can this exist? Can this community actually exist? It did then. Do you think it can now? I think so. And this is how they did it, and so maybe this is how we could do it too. Is that what they did is they joined in, even though they disagreed on such core levels. They didn't like each other. They were pretty much sworn enemies, and they still came together and unified over the mission. They were apostles. They were sent to declare the message of the gospel. The way that we can come together with people we disagree with, people we don't like, and I'm not saying that we have to like everybody. I don't think you have to like me. I'm okay with that. We don't have to like everybody. We don't have to be best friends with everybody, but we can join arms and move forward toward the mission of God with spreading the gospel. Whether you like me or not, whether I like you or not, we can still go arm in arm, moving the kingdom forward. Because what really matters is being unified around the mission. All right, I'm going to move on. But to have this unusual community that is based on this mission of God, it really takes unusual people. Unusual people, and that's what Jesus kind of begins to describe in verses 20 through 22, as he begins to lay out these unusual people. He uses this term blessed. Blessed refers to those who have the things that make for earthly happiness. It implies not only blessed down the road, but blessed now. And the way Jesus describes those who have everything they need for earthly happiness is different than one might expect. These people are unusual. So you look at the list of characteristics here from verse 20 through 26. There are two lists of characteristics of two different people, and they are meant to contrast with one another. There's poor versus rich. There's hungry versus full. There's weeping versus laughing. There's hated versus being well liked. See, this list is not simply a statement of poverty is inherently good and wealth is inherently bad. What he's getting at is that it is more of an attitude toward your needs and your possessions. It is more about how you view the things that bring satisfaction. It is more about where are you looking for satisfaction. See, this attitude promotes that you have to look outside of yourself, outside of your possessions, outside of your circumstances to find true happiness. Because it's not the ones who have everything that are happy, it's the ones who have nothing that are happy. So that means there is something else that brings satisfaction. When we begin to find this true satisfaction, all of the other things kind of fall away. We become like Paul in Philippians 3, who said, all of those things that I and everyone else deems important, I now find as garbage compared to knowing Christ. I don't care about all of those other things. There's something else that brings true satisfaction. This attitude looks at acceptance and fame and power different. You're okay being poor and hungry and suffering. You're okay with being hated and excluded and reviled and spurned because of what heaven holds. Eternal acceptance. What brings the blessed life that Jesus presents here is looking to Him as your reward. Looking to Him as the source of your satisfaction. Looking to Him as the source of your joy. Outside of Him, you'll always be looking for more. You'll never be truly satisfied. You'll always be longing. You'll always be looking for more. Because what we really need is Him. What we really long for is Him. Have you ever watched your kids on Christmas morning and the days after? See, our kids ask for certain things for months, right? They ask for certain things for months and months, and Christmas morning they open them and they get them and they're so excited. And they love this thing, and it's the best thing that's ever existed for a little while. And then they want something else. Ruby, my 4-year-old, has gotten into this kick recently of when she wants something else, she'll say, I don't like any of my stuff. I just want that. I don't like anything else. But it's not just kids that do that, right? We do that too, right? Adults do that too, right? We find joy and pleasure and excitement and energy in things right away, and then over time they lose their luster, right? One of my dad's best friends growing up, a man named David Graham, used to say all the time, when you can see a young man open a door for his date getting into the car, it means that either this is a new girl or a new car. And I just always thought that was funny. But over time, things kind of lose their luster, right? That's because those things were never meant to bring our satisfaction. Those things were never meant to bring our joy. The famous statement is that there's a God-shaped hole inside of us, right? And the problem is we try to fill it with everything else and find over and over and over that is not satisfying, that is not enough. Augustine, the bishop from the 4th and 5th century, wrote, "You have made us for yourself, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." We will never be satisfied if we rely on our possessions and our circumstances for our satisfaction. Our satisfaction only comes from Him. And so He calls this morning, look to me. Look to me and live. Look to me and find joy. Look to me and find satisfaction. When we look to him for our satisfaction, even though we have nothing else, we will be satisfied. When we look to him for our satisfaction, though the world around us falls apart, we will be satisfied. When we look to him for our satisfaction, though we are rejected by everybody else, we will be satisfied. This unusual community is made up of unusual people, and it offers an unusual love. An unusual love. He says in verse 27, "But I say to you who hear," not everyone who is under the sound of my voice is actually going to hear what I'm saying. Sure, the sounds are going in your ears. Sure, you're processing this. But what Jesus is saying is that to really understand those who are getting this, who are hearing this, those are the ones who apply this, who do this. And this is what he says: love your enemies. If you really want to get what I'm saying, if you really believe what I'm saying, if you really are satisfied in me and me alone, this is what you're going to do. You're going to love your enemies, not your friends, your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. And this is where we really are going to struggle with this. Pray for those who abuse you. Now, I want to be clear. He does not say, stay with those who abuse you. He does not say, trust those who abuse you. He says, pray for them. If you are being abused, it's okay to leave. If you are being abused, it's good to ask for help. If you are being abused, it is wise to set up boundaries to protect yourself. But he does say pray for them. And that's difficult. How do you love your enemies? How do you do good to those who hate you? How do you bless those who curse you? How do you pray for the good of those who have abused you? This is so difficult. But he goes on and he says, if someone strikes you, turn the other cheek. This word here, this phrase here, to strike is really meant to be a disrespectful slap in the face. Matthew words it as slaps you on the right cheek, meaning it is a backhanded slap to demean you, to cheapen you, to disrespect you. What he's getting at is don't retaliate, even to utter disrespect. And he continues and says, give to everyone expecting nothing in return. Now, this was at complete odds with custom. If you lent someone money, they owed you, and you would hold them to that. It would work for you until they paid off their debts. But Jesus seems to be saying, count it as a gift. Even this is different because gifts were reserved for solidifying deals or reserved for friend-to-friend relationships. What Jesus is saying is look at those who are less than you as though they are equal to you and they are your friends. Consider them equals. Now, treating people this way that Jesus says is not easy. This is difficult. It is tough to love people who are against you. It's not easy to be disrespected and let it go. I still have issues from growing up in the church and being at church business meetings and watching how hateful church people can be. I can remember being a little boy wanting to fight grown men because they disrespected my dad. And I don't say that to be cute or funny. I was serious. And I would get angry at my dad because how can you remain calm in this? How can you let them disrespect you? And then weeks later, how can you go to care for them when they're hurting after they did that to you? I didn't understand it. I still have emotions when I think of certain people from my childhood and how they treated my dad. He was a pastor, for those of you who don't know. This isn't easy. I understand that this is not easy. I can't imagine praying for the good of someone who abused me. I can't imagine that. I promise you that I'm not taking this lightly. I know this is difficult, but this is what I see in this. This is what I understand from this, is that it is not about how we feel about it. This is about action. No matter how you feel about this, this is what we're called to do. This is an unusual love because even though I don't feel like it, I need to do it. I need to act this way. I need to love this way. Now, this statement was more pointed than we actually understand. They got it a little more deeply than we do. See, at the beginning of this, I mentioned the unusual community that was there between the two apostles that were brought in, but there's even more to this. In verse 17, and they talks about at the end of verse 17 that they came down from all Judea and Jerusalem and the sea coast of Tyre and Sidon. Now, the fact that they are there in their midst is important because this group of people in the Old Testament were deemed as wealthy, godless oppressors of Israel. Josephus, who was an ancient Jewish historian, said that they were our bitterest enemies. They were a perfect picture of who you are to love in this unusual way. Those people, love them this way. Those people who are your oppressors, love this way. This morning, as he did then, Jesus is calling us to join his kingdom. And I believe he says anyone who wants to join, anybody who is willing to join, anybody who is here to join in. This is what it looks like. You're going to have to go arm in arm with people you disagree with. You're going to have to welcome and accept and love people that you disagree with. You're going to have to treat those outside who are your enemies, who abuse you, who are against you. You're going to have to treat them with love and respect, and you are going to have to find satisfaction in something other than the things that you have. What he's saying is, to live in my kingdom is not to fit all of this into your world. It is not to pick and choose the things that you want and apply them to your life. What he's saying is that you have to abandon your life for his kingdom. You have to abandon your kingdom for his. Just this initial call is not easy. And we see it throughout the New Testament. John chapter 6 is a wonderful example. Jesus preaches this message about what it means to be a part of him, and people say, this is difficult, and they leave. It's not easy to do this. It's not easy to live this way. You will face persecution. You will face troubles. You will struggle. You will face oppression from the enemy. It's not easy. I don't want anybody to think that just simply doing this is the easy and good way. No, this is not easy. G.K. Chesterton said that the Christian ideal has not been tried and found wanting. It has been found difficult and left untried. It is not easy, but I believe that we can do this. I believe that we can do this together. Look at verse 35. It says, your reward will be great. If you're simply looking for a reason to do this, there you go. Your reward will be great. There's a reward in this life and in the life to come. That's encouraging and that's exciting, but I don't think that is how we are able to do this. Keep reading. He says that he is kind. God is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. In other words, he did it. Follow his lead. How could you not? He did this for you. How could you not do this for others in return? That seems logical, but I don't think that is how we can do this. So how do you do this? How do you love your enemies? How do you bless those who curse you? How do you pray for those who abuse you? How do you find satisfaction even though you are poor and hungry and hated? Notice right at the beginning of this, verse 13, and when day came, he called his disciples. Before he ever sent them out, he called them to himself. Verse 17, we see, 17 through 19, we see that they came to him and they listened to him and they touched him. And verse 19 says that power came out from him. Here's the reality that we can live this way because of him. We can live this way because power comes from him. He wasn't just a good example. He gives power, he gives help, he gives what we need to live this way. The only way we can live in this kingdom is through him. The call this morning yes, is live this way as part of this kingdom. That is part of it. But ultimately, the call this morning is first and foremost, come to me. Come to me. That's what he said to all of his disciples as he called them, come to me, and I will make you fishers of men. Come to me, and I will do all through you that is required here to be a part of his kingdom. It is not about living or trying really hard. It's not about trying to be a better person. It is come to me and I will live through you in this way. Come to me and you will find satisfaction. Come to me and you won't long for those other things because you will find satisfaction in me. Come to me and you will not feel that you are abandoned because you will find welcome and acceptance in me. Come to me. That is the call this morning. Come to me and live. Come to me and live. Friends, this isn't just a way to live. This is the way to live. This is the only way that leads to life. Come to me and live. Would you come this morning?